Hey everyone, Philip Jin here. I recently finished drawing a new wallpaper for my very young Patreon account and thought I'd walk you through it. For those of you wondering why this doesn't start with a blank file, I didn't think of doing a screen capture until I had already started penciling, so this is about 5 to 10 minutes in. What you just saw me do is land some lines based on the position and gesture of the snowman and the clouds overhead, crisscrossing towards where I want to place my main focal point, which is the boy. I zoomed out here to get a read on the placement of the darker values, and I decided to switch where the light source is placed. I figured if the shadow of the snowman was pointed towards the boy, then the boy wouldn't be surprised by the presence of the snowman during a sneak attack. Makes sense, right? I'm also zoomed out a bit to place in the boy, then I zoomed back in to start work on fleshing him out. Now would be a good time to mention that I don't really like drawing on the computer. I'm a traditional materials type of guy. Give me a pen, a pencil, some paper any day. But there's something to be said for the speed at which one can put together a drawing on the computer. The undo function isn't something I like to use except in rare circumstances. I don't have one when I draw on paper, and I like that because, and especially during the inking stage, not having an undo function means I have to have confidence when I lay down my ink lines. But since I'm in the penciling stage, it was just faster to switch the light source and the shadows and a few other things by using the undo function. Most of the time though, I just erase. By the way, in case you're wondering, I'm using Kyle Webster's animator pencil brush for Photoshop. It's obviously red. When I'm drawing on paper, I like to lay down construction lines with a red pencil, so I'm just doing the same thing here, except that I'm skipping the refining phase that I would normally do with an HB pencil. Most of my pencils are fairly loose, so I can do most of the actual drawing in the inking stage, which is the stage that is the most fun for me. And you probably just saw me flip back and forth between the drawing and a preview of the first Snowball fight I drew back in January, also in Photoshop. I'm doing that to make sure that I give both the snowman and the boy the same look as the first drawing. To ink, I'm using a modified Belgian comics nib, also by Kyle Webster. This is probably the closest Photoshop brush I've found to mimicking the lines I make inking with a real nib or brush on bristleborder. When I use a small size, it mimics a Maru or Crowquill nib. When it's a little thicker, it's more like a G-pen, and when it's as thick as I'm using now, it looks more like a brush. I'll be the first to admit that when I am working on these Snowball fights, I am thinking about Bill Watterson. I've had a number of people tell me that they can see the Watterson influence. I'm making sure that I don't actually mimic Bill Watterson, but I am letting the influence of Watterson shine through because these snowman versus kid snowball fights that I've been drawing, they're kind of done in the Watterson spirit. So I don't think there's a problem letting Watterson's influence shine through as long as I put my own stamp on it and I draw in my own way. I think what I'm drawing here looks like my work, but when you look at it, it's pretty obvious where the influence comes from. So I think of it as a bit of an homage. I've been using a lot of multi-directional and curved hatching lately. I think it provides a lot of texture in design when used in the right places, like these huge rocks. If you want some really good examples of multi-directional and curved hatching to provide texture and form, check out Sergio Topi's work. The man is a master, and studying his work has been absolutely essential for me as an illustrator, as an inker, and as an illustrative designer. The trees in the background are obviously really basic pine trees. I put the brush in clear mode to white out some areas where there might be snow, but because it's in the background, I didn't want to go into detail. It was more important that I gave the impression of a realistic environment than to actually zoom in and draw real snow on meticulously drawn trees. Here I'm filling in the clouds, making sure the lines lead to the kid. The snowman is facing the boy, which makes us want to look in the same direction. Even though the boy is also looking to the right of the picture, his centralized location, the opposing lines from the clouds, and the big rocks serving as obstructions all help to stop or slow our eyes from moving further to the right of the picture. Then there's the snowman's snowball, head, and carrot nose, which all create an implied line towards the boy. All of these things combined help bring focus to the kid, who's the one about to be pummeled by a surprise snowball. Backgrounds have less and less detail the farther you go back. This is often referred to as atmospheric perspective. So these small trees in the distance are just scribbles. All I need to do from here are some final touches, and I will be done. I'm about to finish up here, and I think the whole thing took me about an hour, which is pretty good considering that I had the Winter Olympics on in the background. And that's it. Thank you very much for watching. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can find me online at any of the links below, and feel free to leave any questions or comments. I do have plans for more videos, so be sure to check back. See you next time.